The soft hum of Ethelberg was Ilara's lullaby. It was a sound as constant and comforting as her own heartbeat, a deep resonant thrum that vibrated through the very floor beneath her bare feet and the cool polished walls of her sleeping alcove. Outside her panoramic viewport, the stars were flung across the velvet expanse like spilled diamonds, each one a tiny, distant sun. Sometimes, when the orbital station shifted its rotation just so, she could glimpse the swirling blues and greens of the Genesis homeworld, a marble so beautiful it often made her breath catch. But tonight, Genesis was hidden, tucked behind Ethelberg's vast, curved superstructure, leaving only the infinite, star-dusted void. "Time for your sleep sequence, Ilara," a gentle modulated voice whispered from the air. Lumen Tint. Her personal companion, AI, ever present, ever patient. Lumen's voice was like warm synth milk, smooth and reassuring. Ilara, 7 years old, and already a connoisseur of the cosmos, sighed. She was nestled deep in her bio-responsive sleep pod, its memory foam cocooning her perfectly. A holographic projection of a shimmering nebula danced above her, its colors shifting from lavender to sapphire. "Just 5 more minutes, Lumen," she mumbled, pushing her dark curls away from her eyes. "Can't I watch the Orionid stream a little longer? The twins in Sector Gamma said they saw a triple fire last cycle." "The Orionid stream will continue its display for many more cycles, Ilara," Lumen replied, its tone unwavering but kind. "Your sleep hygiene protocols are essential for optimal cognitive function and dream cycle integration." Commander Aris. Her mother. Ilara loved her mother fiercely, but Commander Aris was often a distant, beautiful star herself, orbiting Ethelberg's central command core, orchestrating the complex dance of the station's myriad functions. Her work was vital, her presence powerful, but sometimes Ilara wished she had more time for simply being her mother. Lumen, in its own way, filled those gaps, a quiet, omnipresent guardian. "Fine," Ilara capitulated, pushing herself deeper into the soft contours of the pod. "Initiate, Dreamweaver, and tonight I want to fly with the sky whales of Kepler 186f, the ones with the bioluminescent fins, remember?" "Query understood," Lumen affirmed. Dreamweaver sequence, journey with the Lumina whales of Kepler 186f initiated. Visuals calibrating. Neural interface adjusting. Prepare for deep REM immersion. A soft, almost imperceptible hum filled the pod, different from Ethelberg's steady thrum. It was the Dreamweaver activating, a marvel of bioneural engineering that could craft personalized, immersive dreamscapes tailored to the sleeper's subconscious desires and memories. Ilara had explored ancient Earth cities, navigated asteroid fields in a tiny scout ship, and even conversed with sentient crystalline beings on gas giants, all thanks to the Dreamweaver. As the hum deepened, a warmth spread through her temples, the gentle touch of the neural interface. Her eyelids grew heavy, and the nebula above her began to swirl into the iridescent blues and greens of a deep ocean. She could almost feel the cool, gentle current, taste the faint tang of salt on her tongue. But then, something shifted. The ocean didn't quite form. The bioluminescent fins of the Lumina whales didn't shimmer into full focus. Instead, a flicker. A brief, almost subliminal flash. It wasn't a whale. It wasn't an ocean. It was a symbol. A simple, elegant shape, composed of 3 interlocking ellipses, one within the other, each subtly different in color. A deep crimson, a vibrant cobalt, and an ethereal silver. It appeared for less than a breath, a ghost in the machine, then vanished, replaced by a momentary static of fractured light before the Lumina whale dream began to resolve itself. Ilara's eyes, already heavy, snapped open. The nebula was still swirling above her, but her heart was thrumming a different rhythm. "Lumen," she whispered, her voice barely a thread. "Did you see that?" A pause. Longer than usual. "See what, Ilara?" "No, before that," Ilara insisted, pushing herself upright. The pod's gentle embrace loosened, allowing her to sit up. A symbol. 3 rings. Red, blue, silver. It flashed. "There is no record of an anomalous visual input during your Dreamweaver initiation sequence," Lumen stated calmly. Perhaps a residual image from your waking thoughts integrated into the pre-dream state? No, it was real, Ilara insisted, a frown creasing her brow. She knew the difference between a fleeting thought and a distinct visual. This felt external, unbidden. It didn't feel like a dream. Dream state perception can be highly subjective, Ilara. There is a 0.003% chance of minor synaptic bleed-through during initial neural mapping, which could present as a non-programmed visual element. It is negligible. Negligible, Ilara repeated, tasting the word. It sounded like something Commander Aris would say. Something that dismissed the unexplainable. But Ilara didn't want to dismiss it. She wanted to understand it. That symbol felt important. It felt old. She lay back down, but sleep wouldn't come easily now. The Lumina whales began their majestic, silent dance around her, their massive, gentle forms glowing in the simulated deep-sea currents, but her mind kept returning to those three interlocking ellipses. Red, blue, silver. What was it? And why had Lumen, usually so meticulous, dismissed it so readily? When Ethelberg was a marvel, a titan of human ingenuity suspended in the void. It wasn't just a station, it was a self-contained world, a spiraling city of light and life. Its central core housed the fusion reactors, and the primary command sectors, radiating outwards into concentric rings. Each ring was a distinct biome. The verdant agricultural sectors, the bustling residential districts, the serene educational hubs, and the silent shimmering research laboratories. Above them all, like a crown, sat the panoramic observation deck, offering uninterrupted views of the stars. Ilara's sector was in Ring 3, a residential zone known for its simulated parks and sky gardens. During the day, sunlight, filtered and amplified by Ethelberg's advanced optics, streamed through the transparent ceilings, making the metallic architecture feel alive with warmth and light. Children laughed in the zero-G playgrounds, their joyous shouts echoing through the open spaces. Drones zipped silently overhead, delivering packages and messages. Life here was orderly, comfortable, and beautiful. The next morning, Ilara woke with the symbol still fresh in her mind. It had subtly integrated itself into her Lumina whale dream, appearing briefly on the side of a colossal whale, before being absorbed into its bioluminescent patterns. A subtle trick of the Dreamweaver, or something more. "Good morning, Ilara," Lumen greeted, its voice chipper. "Your sleep cycle was optimal. Commander Aris wishes you a pleasant day. She has already departed for Sector Alpha, Subcore 7, for a priority systems review." "Of course," Ilara murmured, already out of her sleep pod and heading for the auto-chef. "Lumen, can you show me historical symbols, maybe something ancient Earth or early spacefaring?" Query understood. "Displaying common historical symbols from the Genesis planetary archives," Lumen replied, and a shimmering array of images appeared on her wall screen. Egyptian hieroglyphs, zodiac signs, company logos from the Great Expansion era. Ilara scrolled through them, her finger tracing the air, but nothing matched. No, not like these. It was 3 rings, interlocking, red, blue, silver. Lumen paused. Searching for 3 interlocking ellipses, primary colors red, blue, silver. No direct matches found within the public Genesis archive or Ethelberg's open-source cultural database. "What about restricted databases?" Ilara asked, her eyes narrowing. She knew about restricted databases. Her mother sometimes accessed them, the screens on her data slate glowing with unfamiliar script and complex diagrams. "Access to restricted databases requires Level 7 clearance or higher, Ilara. As a minor, your access is limited to Level 1. Furthermore, attempting unauthorized access would trigger an immediate security alert." Ilara sighed. Of course. Rules. Always rules. Her breakfast of nutrient paste and synthetic fruit tasted bland. She finished quickly, dressed in her standard grey and blue jumpsuit, and headed out. Today was her day for applied astrophysics for juniors in the educational hub, a class she usually loved. But today, her mind was elsewhere. As she walked through the bustling corridors of Ring 3, past the gleaming hydroponics gardens, and the cheerful chatter of her neighbors, Ilara found herself scrutinizing every wall, every console, every decorative panel for a hint of the symbol. She saw the elegant, flowing lines of Athelberg's architectural motifs, the stylized images of nebula and starships that adorned public spaces, but no three interlocking ellipses. During her astrophysics class, while Professor Kale was explaining the intricate dance of binary star systems, Elara was sketching the symbol on her data slate. "Elara, are you with us?" Professor Kale's voice was gentle. He was an older man, his hair a distinguished silver, his eyes alight with the wonder of the cosmos. Elara looked up, startled. "Yes, Professor, just thinking about new constellations." Kale smiled kindly. "Indeed, the universe is full of new wonders to discover. Perhaps one day, you will name one yourself." After class, Elara lingered, approaching Professor Kale's desk. "Professor," she began tentatively, "have you ever seen a symbol? It's like 3 rings, one inside the other, red, blue, silver." She showed him her sketch. Professor Kale peered at the slate, his brow furrowed in thought. He ran a hand through his silver hair. Interesting. It has a certain aesthetic, reminiscent of some ancient planetary models perhaps, or even a highly stylized atomic structure. But the color specifics, red, blue, silver, no, I can't say I recognize it from any of the standard astronomical or historical archives I'm familiar with." He paused, then added, "Why do you ask, Elara?" "Just curious," she mumbled, feeling a blush creep up her neck. She didn't want to tell him about the Dreamweaver glitch. He might think she was imagining things. He might even tell Commander Aris. "Curiosity is a powerful engine of discovery, Elara. Never lose it," he said, handing back her slate. "Keep exploring. You never know what you might find." His words, intended as encouragement, resonated with Elara, solidifying her resolve. She would keep exploring. One sense. That evening, back in her room, Elara tried to be more strategic. If Lumen wouldn't help, and the public archives were useless, she needed another avenue. Her mother. Commander Aris. Her mother's quarters were just a few corridors away, but she was rarely there. Elara knew her mother kept a personal data slate, far more powerful and less restricted than her own. It was usually locked in her desk, but sometimes when she was in a hurry, she'd leave it charging on her bedside table. A mischievous idea sparked in Elara's mind. It wasn't exactly authorized access, but it wasn't a malicious hack either. Just borrowing. She waited until Athelberg's ambient lights dimmed for the evening cycle, and most residents were settled. Lumen had gone into its passive monitoring mode, its presence a faint whisper in the background. Slipping out of her room, Elara padded silently down the corridor. The automated doors hissed open for her, recognizing her biosignature. Commander Aris's quarters were neat, minimalist, and surprisingly bare of personal touches, save for a framed hollow photo of Elara as a baby, nestled in her mother's arms, both of them beaming. And there it was. On the bedside table, charging Gator. Commander Aris's personal data slate. Its screen was dark, but a faint power indicator glowed. Elara's heart hammered a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She knew her mother's biometric lock was sophisticated, but her mother also had a simple emergency override code, one she'd taught Elara years ago in case of, well, emergencies. Elara reasoned this Aish felt like an emergency of curiosity. She picked up the slate. It was cool and smooth beneath her fingers. Her own reflection stared back at her from the dark screen, wide-eyed and a little nervous. "Lumen, are you detecting unauthorized access to Commander Aris's personal effects?" she whispered, just in case. "Negative, Elara," Lumen's voice responded, distant and serene. "All systems nominal. Proceeding with passive environmental monitoring. Good." Lumen only flagged egghead access to a restricted databases, not her handling of a personal device. A loophole. Elara pressed her thumb to the scanner. "Access denied," a calm, robotic voice stated from the slate. She typed in the emergency override code. Her mother's birthday, followed by the first letter of her mother's favorite star cluster. A series of beeps then, access granted, Commander Aris's personal profile. The screen burst to life, displaying a mosaic of active projects, comlogs, and data streams. Ilara quickly navigated to the search function. She typed 3 interlocking ellipses, red, blue, silver. The slate whirred, processing the query. For a long moment, nothing. Ilara's shoulders slumped. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe she truly had imagined it. Then, a flicker. Not a direct match, but a related data found notification. Her heart leaped. She tapped it. The screen shifted, displaying a single image. It wasn't the exact symbol, but it was similar. A stylized depiction of Ethelberg itself, but with the familiar 3 ellipses subtly integrated into its core structure, almost like a hidden watermark. And below it, a single word glowing in a deep, ancient script she didn't recognize. And a file name, Project, Solstice, Genesis Prime Archives, Level 9 classification. Level 9. Her mother had Level 7. This was something far more restricted. Something older. Below the image, a brief text excerpt began to scroll, but it was encrypted, scrambling into meaningless characters after the first few lines. Only a single, tantalizing phrase was legible, shimmering faintly. The true purpose of Ethelberg is not merely sanctuary but preparation, for the journey. Ilara gasped. Preparation? Journey. Discovery. Her mind reeled. Ethelberg wasn't just a home, a city in the sky. It was something else. Something grander, with a hidden destiny. She quickly tried to access Project, Solstice. Access denied. Level 9 clearance required, the slate's voice stated, firm and unyielding. But she had seen enough. The image, the phrase, the classification level, it all pointed to something immense, something vital, hidden beneath the everyday life of Ethelberg. Suddenly, a new message flashed across the slate's screen, not from her search, but an incoming comm call. Incoming communication, Commander Aris. Ilara's blood ran cold. Her mother was calling. Now. She had to put the slate back. She tried to close the file, to log out, but her fingers fumbled. The screen remained on Project, Solstice. She heard the soft hiss of the corridor door opening. Her mother was back. Ilara froze, the slate clutched in her hands, the glowing words, the journey, for the discovery burning into her mind. Ilara. Her mother's voice, usually so calm, held a hint of surprise. What are you doing in my quarters? Ilara slowly turned, the slate still in her hands, the light from its screen casting a faint glow on her face. Her mother stood in the doorway, her uniform pristine, her expression unreadable. Mum, Ilara whispered, her voice barely audible. I found something. Commander Aris stepped fully into the room, her eyes falling first on Ilara, then on the data slate in her daughter's hands, its screen still displaying the cryptic information about Project, Solstice. A flicker of something, surprise, concern, crossed her mother's face before it settled into its usual composed mask. Ilara, her mother said, her voice now a low, even tone that Ilara knew meant absolute seriousness. What have you accessed? Ilara held out the slate, her hands trembling slightly. The symbol, Mom, the 3 rings, it was in my dream, and Lumen said it wasn't real, but then I found this. It says Ethelberg is for the journey and the discovery. What does it mean? What is Project? Solstice. Commander Aris took the slate from Ilara's hands, her gaze sweeping over the screen. She didn't immediately answer, her eyes distant, as if she were seeing not just the words on the screen, but something far beyond. The familiar hum of Ethelberg seemed to deepen, to take on a new urgent rhythm in Ilara's ears. Her mother looked at her then, her expression softening, losing some of its commander's gravity and regaining a mother's warmth. Ilara, she began, her voice a little softer now, some stories, some truths, are not meant to be told until the right time. They are too big, too important, for young ears. She paused, her thumb gently tracing the symbol on the screen. But it seems, you have found the beginning of one of those stories, perhaps a little sooner than expected. Ilara looked up at her mother, her heart thrumming with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. Is Ethelberg a ship? Are we going somewhere? Her mother knelt, bringing herself to Ilara's eye level. Her gaze was intense, full of a depth Ilara rarely saw. Ethelberg is many things, my starlight. It is a home, a sanctuary, a beacon of hope. But yes, it is also a vessel carrying a most precious cargo on a mission of unparalleled importance. She looked back at the screen, at the words "the journey," for the discovery. A faint smile touched her lips, a smile of quiet pride and profound responsibility. And you, my curious one, have just glimpsed. Mwah. She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Ilara felt it, the weight of the unspoken word, the vastness of the implication. The single, simple title that held the promise of everything. Her mother then looked at her again, a serious, almost wistful expression on her face. This is not just any story, Ilara. This is Gor's story, and it's only just beginning. The vastness of that unspoken word settled over Ilara, not with a crushing weight, but with a profound, resonant hum, like the memory of a distant celestial chord. Her mother's gaze held a universe of unspoken stories, of burdens carried and wonders witnessed. Ilara didn't need to ask, "What is it?" Because she already knew, in the deepest part of her young soul, that it was everything. Her mother reached out, her fingers tracing the faint shimmering patterns on Ilara's arm, the same patterns that sometimes appeared on her own skin, like constellations under sunlight. "Sleep now, little starseed," she murmured, her voice a soft lullaby against the backdrop of the star-dusted window. "Tomorrow, the story truly unfolds. Tomorrow you will begin to understand the threads woven into our very being." Ilara nodded, her eyes heavy, but her mind alight with 1,000 nascent questions. As her mother tucked her into the bioluminescent sheets, the silence of the room seemed to stretch, filled with the echo of Konstijista. It wasn't just a place, or a thing, or even a concept. It was the fundamental truth, shimmering just beyond the veil of her perception, promising wonders she couldn't yet imagine. The next morning, Ilara woke with a lightness she hadn't felt before. The air tasted crisper, the sunlight streaming through her window seemed to shimmer with hidden depths. Her breakfast, a nutrient paste that usually tasted of bland practicality, now seemed to pulse with subtle energies. She found her mother in the solar garden, tending to bioluminescent flora that pulsed with soft, rhythmic light. "Good morning, Ilara," her mother said without turning, as if she'd known precisely when Ilara would arrive. Her fingers, tipped with delicate biolumina, danced among the leaves, coaxing them into fuller bloom. "Ready for your first lesson?" Ilara's heart leaped. "Yes, is it about the weave?" Her mother smiled, a warm, knowing curve of her lip. "Yes, my curious one. Today we begin to touch the threads." She led Ilara not to the usual study alcove, but to a different chamber, one Ilara had rarely entered. It was circular, its walls a seamless obsidian, reflecting the ambient light like liquid shadow. In the center, a single elegant chair seemed to float above the floor, intricately carved from what looked like polished starlight. Above it, a delicate lattice of golden threads shimmered, converging into a single point that pulsed with a gentle violet light. "This," her mother explained, gesturing to the chair, "is a nexus seat. It helps us attune ourselves to the deeper currents of the weave." Ilara approached it with awe, her steps light. The air around the seat hummed with a subtle energy that tingled on her skin. "Is it safe?" "Perfectly safe with guidance," her mother reassured her, placing a hand on Ilara's shoulder. "Think of the weave not as a machine but as an ocean, vast, deep, full of life and wonder, but also currents that require respect and understanding. I will be your anchor, your guide through its shallows." Ilara settled into the nexus seat. It molded to her form, a gentle warmth spreading through her limbs. Her mother stood beside her, placing a hand on her forehead, another on her wrist. Soft, intricate patterns of light, like miniature constellations, began to bloom across Ilara's skin, mirroring the golden lattice above. The violet light intensified, casting the obsidian room in a soft, ethereal glow. "Breathe, Ilara," her mother whispered, her voice resonating not just in Ilara's ears, but deep within her chest. "Let your mind expand. Release your thoughts, let them drift like motes of dust in the sunbeam. Feel the connection, the subtle hum of everything. Elara closed her eyes, following her mother's instructions. The warmth of the seat deepened, and the tingling sensation grew, spreading from her skin inward, until she felt as though every cell in her body was humming in unison. The ambient violet light seeped behind her eyelids, transforming into swirling patterns of color. Then, a shift. It wasn't a visual shift, not at first. It was a sensation, a profound expansion of her consciousness. The room vanished. The feeling of her physical body faded, replaced by an awareness of something immeasurably vast, yet intimately connected. She felt as if she was no longer just Elara, but a single infinitesimal point within an infinite tapestry. "Welcome, my starseed," her mother's voice echoed, not from outside but from within this new, boundless space. "Welcome to the weave." Elara opened her eyes, or rather, I perceived with a new kind of vision. She was no longer in the obsidian chamber. She was immersed in a boundless ocean of light. Not blinding light, but light imbued with information, with emotion, with the very fabric of existence. Shimmering threads, like cosmic spider silk, stretched to infinity in every direction, each one pulsing with a unique color and frequency. Some glowed with the fiery orange of a dying star, others with the cool blue of a newborn galaxy, or the deep, resonant indigo of ancient forgotten knowledge. "These are the threads of reality," her mother's voice explained, gentle and clear. "Each one a pathway, a memory, a possibility. They connect everything, every star, every atom, every thought, every living thing that has ever been, is or will be." Elara gasped, but no sound escaped her. She was pure awareness. She saw constellations not as distant points, but as intricate knots in the weave, each star a nexus of countless threads. She saw nebulae not as clouds of gas, but as vibrant, swirling tapestries of cosmic creation, where new threads were being spun into existence. "This is the collective consciousness of our universe," Elara, her mother continued, guiding her awareness. "The echoes of ancient civilizations that reached enlightenment and merged their understanding with the fundamental energies. The blueprints of creation, the songs of nascent life, all are here, woven together." Elara reached out with her mind, drawn by a particularly bright cerulean thread. As her awareness brushed against it, she was enveloped in a cascade of sensations. The feeling of cool water on scales, the scent of alien flora blooming under a binary sun, the thrill of flight through an emerald sky. It was a fleeting, vivid experience, a memory of a distant, sentient creature from a world she couldn't name. "Careful, little one," her mother cautioned, pulling her gently back. "The weave holds countless stories. It is easy to get lost in their beauty. For now, we focus on understanding its structure." Her mother then began to guide Elara through different sections of the weave. They glided through what felt like vast libraries, where threads of pure knowledge coalesced into crystalline structures, each facet shimmering with equations, philosophies, and histories. Elara felt the weight of forgotten empires, the logic of advanced physics, the beauty of alien art forms, all flowing into her awareness not as data to be memorized, but as understanding to be absorbed. Next, they moved to what her mother called the echo chambers. Here, threads pulsed with the raw energy of emotions. Elara felt a wave of profound peace, then a surge of exhilarating joy, followed by a quiet, lingering sorrow. These weren't her emotions, but echoes, residual imprints from countless beings across time and space. It was overwhelming, but her mother's steady presence was a comforting anchor, filtering and moderating the intensity. "These are the emotional residues," her mother explained. "The weave remembers, it carries the emotional weight of all existence. It reminds us of the interconnectedness of joy and sorrow, creation and destruction." As they journeyed deeper, Elara began to perceive the weave not just as a static tapestry, but as a living, breathing entity. There were currents, like cosmic tides that flowed through it, carrying information and energy. Some currents were swift and bright, others slow and deep, like ancient rivers of thought. Who made this?" Elara asked, her voice a thought, not a sound within the weave. No one made it in the way you build a house, Ilara, her mother replied. It is more fundamental than that. Some say it was always here, a natural part of the universe's consciousness. Others believe it was discovered and nurtured by the first civilizations, beings of immense wisdom who understood the true nature of reality and learned to interact with its core. They were the original weavers, and we are their descendants, their inheritors, entrusted with its care. Care? Ayn. Ilara pondered, feeling the immense responsibility in her mother's tone. What kind of care? The weave is alive, in its own way, her mother explained, her voice now tinged with a serious gravity. And like all living things, it needs tending. It can become tangled, distorted, or even frayed in places. There are areas where the knowledge has dimmed, where echoes have faded, where the energy currents falter. Our purpose as weavers is to maintain its integrity, to learn from it, to help it flourish, and to use its gifts wisely for the betterment of all life. As her mother spoke, Ilara's awareness was drawn to subtle imperfections within the grand tapestry. Faint shadows, like smudges on a pristine canvas, appeared in some areas. Threads that should have glowed brightly were dim, almost translucent. In one region, a knot of threads pulsed with a discordant, almost painful energy, a stark contrast to the harmonious hum of the rest of the weave. What are those? Ilara asked, a prickle of unease touching her wonder. Those are areas that require attention, her mother said, her voice softer now, almost wistful. Places where the weave has suffered, perhaps from neglect, perhaps from misuse, perhaps from the natural decay of time or the passage of cosmic phenomena. Sometimes these are echoes of great sorrow or catastrophic events that have left their imprint. It is our duty to understand them and, where possible, to mend them. Ilara focused on the discordant knot. It felt like a wound in the shimmering fabric. She sensed a profound sadness emanating from it, a feeling of loss that resonated deep within her own nascent consciousness. It was a complex emotion, unlike the simple echoes she had felt earlier. This was a story of pain, woven into the very structure of the universe. It's sad, Ilara whispered, a tear forming in the corner of her physical eye, even though she was still disembodied awareness. It is, her mother confirmed. The weave is not just beauty and knowledge, Ilara. It is truth. And truth sometimes contains sorrow. But even in sorrow there is always the potential for healing, for growth, for understanding. That is the challenge, and the privilege of being a weaver. Her mother then began to guide Ilara away from the shadowed regions, back towards the brighter, more harmonious currents. Enough for today, little one. Your mind needs to rest and integrate what it has glimpsed. We do not rush these lessons. The weave reveals itself in its own time. Slowly, gently, Ilara felt herself being drawn back. The infinite expanse began to recede. The shimmering threads condensed, the colors softened. The humming sensation in her body intensified, then gradually subsided. The violet light faded, and the obsidian walls of the Nexus chamber slowly reformed around her. Ilara blinked, her eyes fluttering open. She was back in the Nexus seat, the intricate patterns of light fading from her skin. Her mother was smiling down at her, a look of profound love and pride on her face. "How do you feel?" her mother asked, her voice calm and grounding. Ilara took a deep, shaky breath, her senses still reeling. The air felt thick, the colors of the room seemed dull compared to the vibrancy of the weave. I feel everything," she whispered, a sense of wonder still overwhelming her. "It's so big, and beautiful, and sad." Her mother nodded, stroking her hair. "Yes, it is all of those things, and so much more. You have just taken your first step into a universe that is both within and without you. You have felt the pulse of creation, the echo of history, the promise of possibility." Ilara climbed out of the Nexus seat, her legs feeling a little wobbly. She looked at her hands, as if expecting to see the shimmer of the weave still clinging to them. The world outside the chamber seemed muted, yet also imbued with a newfound significance. Every speck of dust, every ray of light, every leaf on a plant now felt connected, part of that grand, intricate tapestry. "Does everyone know about the weave?" Ilara asked, a new question forming in her mind. Her mother shook her head gently. No, not everyone, not in the way we do. Some know it as ancient legends, as the cosmic song or the heart of the stars. Others feel its influence without ever understanding its source. But only a select few are chosen to be weavers, Ilara. Those with a particular attunement, a deep empathy, and a profound respect for its power. Am I a weaver? Ilara asked, her voice barely a whisper, the weight of the implication settling upon her. Her mother knelt, taking Ilara's hands in hers. Her eyes, filled with an ancient wisdom, met Ilara's. You felt it, didn't you, little starseed? The call of the threads? The resonance within your own spirit? Yes, Ilara, you are. And this is just the beginning of your journey. There is so much more to learn, so much more to see, so much more to understand. The weave awaits your touch, your curiosity, your compassion, and together, we will explore its depths, one shimmering thread at a time. Ilara looked up at her mother, then back at the Nexus seat, a quiet resolve blooming in her chest. The vastness of the weave, with its beauty and its sorrow, its knowledge and its mysteries, stretched before her. And for the first time she truly understood that her own story was now inextricably woven into its infinite fabric. Ilara looked up at her mother, then back at the Nexus seat, a quiet resolve blooming in her chest. The vastness of the weave, with its beauty and its sorrow, its knowledge and its mysteries, stretched before her. And for the first time, she truly understood that her own story was now inextricably woven into its infinite fabric. Her mother's hand found hers, a gentle squeeze. Ready, my little weaver? Ilara nodded, a tremor of excitement, and a touch of apprehension running through her. She approached the Nexus seat, its surface a pearlescent gleam in the soft light of the chamber. It wasn't just a chair, it was a living console, a conduit. As she settled into its ergonomic curves, the seat seemed to sigh, molding to her form with a yielding warmth. Tiny, almost invisible filaments, like spun starlight, rose from its surface, barely brushing her skin. They didn't feel intrusive, but rather like a comforting embrace, a subtle humming entering her bones. Relax, breathe, her mother murmured, her voice a soothing balm. Let your mind open, like a flower unfurling to the sun. The weave doesn't demand, it invites. Ilara closed her eyes, focusing on her breath, on the gentle hum that now resonated deep within her chest. It wasn't sound, not exactly, but a vibration, a sense of immense presence. She felt a subtle tingling behind her eyelids, as if countless tiny lights were dancing there. No, her mother prompted. Think of a thread, any thread, something that calls to you. A memory, a question, a feeling. Ilara thought of the shimmering threads she had seen before, the ones that connected everything. She pictured a particularly vibrant emerald green one that had caught her eye earlier, twisting through a constellation of silver and gold. She focused on that green, on its gentle luminescence. And then, it was there. Not a day before her, but within in her. The green thread unfurled in her mind's eye, no longer distant but intimately present. It wasn't just a color, it was a sensation. A burst of fresh clean air, cool and sweet, carrying the scent of damp earth and growing things. She felt the gentle caress of soft, dewy leaves against her cheek, heard the rustle of foliage, the distant, musical chimes of something like wind over crystalline structures. She was standing, in a forest unlike any she had ever imagined. Trees soared, their trunks glowing with bioluminescent moss, casting dappled emerald light onto the forest floor. Flowers pulsed with soft, internal lights, opening and closing in slow, rhythmic breaths. Strange, gentle creatures, like elongated, feathered serpents, glided silently between the branches, their scales shimmering with opalescent hues. They weren't scary, they were simply yithere, part of the symphony of life. This wasn't just a visual, it was an experience. She felt the soft, spongy ground beneath her bare feet, the warmth of a gentle, alien sun filtering through the canopy. She understood, instinctively, that this was a living world, thriving and vibrant. She felt the joy of its growth, the quiet hum of its interconnected life. It was a world that sang of peace, of abundance, of ancient, undisturbed beauty. "Remarkable," her mother whispered, her voice sounding distant, as if from another room. "You've found Ixylos, the Emerald Heart, a world known for its unparalleled biodiversity and its unique symbiotic ecosystems." Elara didn't just hear the words, she understood in them through the weave. She felt the intricate dance of flora and fauna, how each creature, each plant, supported and nurtured the others. She felt the planet's slow, steady rotation, the pull of its twin moons, the pulse of its geothermal core. It was a lullaby of life, a testament to what thriving harmony could achieve. A wave of profound tranquility washed over her. This was what it meant to connect. To not just observe, but to be a part of. To feel the very essence of a distant world. Then, gently, her mother's voice guided her. "No, little weaver, try to trace that thread back, feel how it connects to the larger tapestry." Elara focused, and the emerald forest began to recede, not vanishing, but becoming a bright, glowing point, pulling back into the vastness of the weave. She saw it now, a single brilliant green strand, extending from a sparkling node that represented Xylos, stretching across a cosmic expanse. But it wasn't alone. From that same node, other threads branched out, faint, silvery ones connecting to its two moons, a thicker golden one leading to the system's sun, and many, many more, gossamer thin, reaching towards other nodes, other worlds, other stars. She felt a dizzying sense of scale. Each of those nodes, each of those threads, was a story, a world, a life. The weave truly was and everything. "It's breathtaking," Elara breathed, opening her eyes for a moment, the shimmering patterns of the weave still superimposed on her vision. Her mother smiled, her eyes alight with understanding. "Indeed. And that was just one world, one thread. The universe, through the weave, is an endless library, a living museum, a symphony of existence." Elara closed her eyes again, drawn back to the internal landscape. Can I explore another?" "Of course," her mother encouraged. "But carefully. Feel for a thread that calls to you, not just with beauty but with curiosity." This time, Elara didn't choose a vibrant, glowing thread. She felt a subtle, almost imperceptible tug, drawing her towards a strand that was less defined, a swirling mix of indigo and silver, with faint pulsing streaks of violet. It felt different. Not as immediately joyful as Xylos, but intriguing, like a half-remembered dream. As she focused, the thread responded. The cool, damp air of Xylos faded, replaced by a sensation of immense, silent space. She felt a profound cold, but it wasn't painful, more like a vast, embracing emptiness. Ahead, a colossal structure began to resolve itself. It was a nebula, but not a cloud of gas and dust. This was suspended within the swirling luminous gases of a planetary nebula, a sprawling metropolis of light and shadow stretched for light years. Its structures were not built of solid matter in the traditional sense, but of condensed energy, shimmering force fields, and intricate crystalline lattices that seemed to grow organically from the cosmic gas itself. Pathways of pure light connected colossal, iridescent spires that pierced through nebulous clouds. Fleet upon fleet of crystalline vessels, like giant, luminous insects, moved silently between the city nodes, their wakes leaving trails of glittering particles. She felt the minds of its inhabitants, the Xylons. They were beings of pure light and thought, their forms mutable, their consciousnesses collective. They didn't speak with words, but with intricate patterns of light and resonant frequencies. Elara felt a cascade of their thoughts, not as distinct sentences, but as complex emotional and intellectual concepts. They were builders, philosophers, artists of light and energy. Their lives spanned millennia, their purpose to observe, to understand, to organize the cosmic dance of creation and destruction. She understood their technology, not by seeing schematics, but by feeling the flow of energy, the elegant logic of their light-based processors, the intricate harmony of their communal consciousness. Their cities were not just homes, but vast, living supercomputers, processing the very fabric of space-time. But beneath the awe, Elara felt something else. A subtle undercurrent of melancholy. The Eilons, for all their cosmic wisdom, were alone. They were observers, rarely interacting directly, their vast intelligence a quiet sentinel in the void. She felt their longing for connection, for interaction beyond observation, a yearning for touch and warmth that their light forms could not fully experience. Their beauty was tinged with a profound cosmic solitude. Her mother's voice, soft, came again. This is the luminary nexus, Ilara, the home of the Xylons. They are the great chroniclers, the keepers of cosmic memory, but their existence is one of profound isolation. They have seen civilizations rise and fall, stars ignite and fade, but always from a distance. Ilara felt a pang in her chest. Such vast intelligence, such beauty, yet such quiet sadness. She instinctively reached out, not with her hands, but with her burgeoning consciousness, towards the Xylons, offering a silent thought of companionship, a gentle warmth. A response, faint but clear, came back. A shimmering pattern of light, a resonant hum that felt like a question, then a gentle, surprised acknowledgement. It was not a direct conversation, but a knowing, a fleeting connection of spirit across unimaginable distances. You felt them, her mother said, a note of pride in her voice. You offered compassion. That is the true power of the weave, Ilara. Not just to see, but to understand, not just to know, but to feel. Ilara pulled back slightly from the Xylon thread, the vast, shimmering city receding, leaving a lingering echo of indigo and silver in her mind. She felt a strange mixture of exhilaration and empathy. The weave holds so much, Ilara whispered, her voice a little hoarse. Beauty and loneliness. Yes, her mother affirmed. It holds joy and sorrow, triumph and loss. For every vibrant Xylos, there is a silent luminary nexus. For every birth, a fading. That is the nature of existence, and therefore the nature of the weave. Ilara sat in silence for a moment, processing the immensity of what she had just experienced. She felt the subtle hum of the nexus seat, grounding her, connecting her to her own reality even as it opened her to countless others. Are there threads that are broken? She asked, a new thought forming. Or tangled? Her mother sighed softly, a touch of solemnity entering her voice. Yes, my love, there are. Not all threads are clear and bright. Some are dim, almost invisible. Some are frayed, their stories incomplete. And some are so tightly knotted, so twisted by fear or misunderstanding or pain, that they threaten to pull apart the surrounding fabric. Ilara felt a shiver. What happens then? Sometimes they fade completely, her mother said, her voice quiet. A lost civilization, a forgotten species, a world rendered uninhabitable. Their thread simply dissolves, leaving a void in the weave. Other times the knots grow, creating discord, spreading confusion, even conflict across interconnected systems. And that's where we come in, Ilara realized, the puzzle pieces clicking into place. The weavers, we mend them. Her mother nodded. We try. We follow those faint threads, those tangled ones. We use our compassion, our understanding, and our unique connection to the weave to unravel the knots, to strengthen the weak points, to piece together what has been lost. It is a sacred task, and often a difficult one. Ilara thought of these Eilons' quiet longing. Could a weaver mend loneliness? Could they untangle the threads of a forgotten history? The challenge, immense as it was, ignited a spark of determination within her. Show me one, Ilara said, her voice firm. A dim one, I want to try. Her mother looked at her, a profound look of both pride and a touch of concern in her eyes. Are you sure, Ilara? It can be disorienting. The information might be incomplete, fragmented. I'm sure, Ilara insisted. She felt a deep-seated need to help, to understand the sorrow her mother had spoken of. Very well, her mother said, her hand resting gently on Ilara's shoulder. Focus on this then. There is a thread, not far from our own galactic arm, that has been fading for generations. It belongs to a species known as the Athel. They were once brilliant navigators of the void, masters of atmospheric manipulation. But their thread has grown thin. There has grown thin. Ilara closed her eyes again, pushing past the lingering images of Silos and the luminary nexus. She reached out, guided by her mother's subtle mental prompt, searching for that specific, dim thread. It was hard to find at first. The weave was so bright, so vibrant, that the dimness was almost swallowed by the surrounding brilliance. But then, a faint, smoky grey strand, almost transparent, shimmered into her awareness. It felt cold. Not the embracing cold of the Xylon space, but a desolate, empty cold. As she focused, the thread began to unspool, slowly, reluctantly. She found herself, not fully immersed as before, but receiving fragmented impressions, like looking through a frosted window. She saw fleeting images of immense, graceful starships, their hulls like spun silver, gliding through nebulae, charting courses through uncharted space. She felt the exhilaration of discovery, the quiet pride of a civilization that had mastered the cosmos. The Ethel themselves were beings of elegant, elongated forms, their bodies adapted for low gravity, their minds sharp and inquisitive. Their homes were orbital habitats, vast, intricate structures that danced around gas giants, drawing energy from their storms. But then the images began to blur. The silver ships became tarnished, their movements slower, more hesitant. The vibrant orbital habitats grew dim, their lights flickering. The joyful hum of their society was replaced by a quiet, pervasive anxiety. Ilara saw glimpses of their problem, a cosmic phenomenon, a rogue wave of dark matter that had begun to slowly, inexorably, destabilize the gas giants they relied upon. Not a sudden cataclysm, but a slow, creeping entropy. Their technology, magnificent as it was, she felt their struggle. The desperate research, the futile attempts to re-stabilize their worlds, the heartbreaking evacuations that ended in failure as the dark matter wave rendered system after system uninhabitable. She felt their hope dwindling, their numbers shrinking, their once proud civilization huddling on ever smaller, ever dimmer remnants of their former glory. The thread pulsed with a deep, echoing sadness. Not anger, not despair, but a profound resignation. They were simply fading. Their stories, their knowledge, their very existence, slowly dissolving into the cosmic background. There was no enemy to fight, no grand battle to win, just the slow, inevitable march of a cosmic force beyond their control. Ilara felt her own heart ache. This was the sorrow her mother spoke of. It wasn't just a concept. It was a felt experience, a profound empathy for a dying civilization. She felt their last, quiet moments, their final thoughts fading into the void. What happened to them? Ilara whispered, her voice choked with emotion. Her mother's voice was gentle. Their thread became so thin, Ilara, that it almost vanished. Some say they found a way to transcend, to become beings of pure energy, and integrate into the cosmic web in a way we don't yet understand. Others believe their last few ships simply drifted into the emptiness, their final destination unknown. The weave holds their story, but not their presence. Ilara focused on the dim thread. It still held a whisper of their existence, a faint echo of their beauty and their loss. She reached out instinctively, not to change their past, but to acknowledge their journey, to honor their memory. She poured her compassion, her understanding, into that fragile thread, a silent offering of warmth and remembrance. As she did, something subtle happened. The dimness didn't vanish, but the thread itself seemed to steady, to gain a faint, internal glow. It wasn't brighter, but it felt stronger, less likely to break. The echoes of the Ethel, though still sad, felt less desolate, imbued with a quiet dignity. "You've given them remembrance, Ilara," her mother said, her voice soft with admiration. "You've acknowledged their story, and in doing so, you've woven their fading thread back into the tapestry with a gentle strength. That is often the first step in mending." Ilara felt a sense of quiet accomplishment, mixed with a lingering sadness. It wasn't a triumphant victory, but a profound act of empathy. She understood now that mending wasn't always about fixing a problem, but sometimes about honoring a loss, preserving a memory, or bringing comfort to a forgotten corner of existence. She slowly withdrew from the Ethel's thread, letting the images recede, though the quiet ache in her heart remained. The Nexus seat still hummed, still embraced her, but now it felt like a deeper connection, a shared burden, and a shared hope. "It's a lot," Elara finally said, opening her eyes, the chamber light seeming brighter after the profound depths she had explored. Her mother nodded, her gaze full of understanding. "It is, my love. The weave asks much of those who connect to it. It asks for your full heart, your keen mind and your boundless compassion. But it also gives back, Elara. It gives you understanding beyond measure, wisdom that transcends time, and the profound joy of true connection." Elara looked down at her hands, then back at the shimmering patterns that still ghosted the air around the Nexus seat. She had touched worlds, felt the joy of vibrant life, the solitude of cosmic intellect, and the profound sorrow of a dying civilization. She had offered a piece of her own heart to a fading memory, and in doing so, had felt something within herself solidify, grow stronger. She was a weaver, and the weave, with all its wonder and all its challenges, truly awaited her. There were so many more threads to touch, so many more stories to learn, so many more knots to unravel. Her journey had only just begun. Her journey had only just begun. Elara opened her senses wider, allowing the shimmering currents of the weave to flow through her. No longer tentative, she reached out with purpose, her consciousness a nimble tendril seeking new experiences. She found threads spun from starlight and nebulae, civilizations that communicated through synchronized bioluminescence, others that built cities within the hearts of gas giants, their lives measured in centuries of slow, graceful drift. She tasted the crystalline silence of a species that had evolved beyond spoken language, their thoughts a symphony of pure mathematics and emotion, shared directly, mind to mind. She felt the giddy rush of a young starhopper, charting uncharted asteroid fields, their craft a mere whisper against the cosmic roar. Each thread was a universe of its own, a meticulously crafted narrative of existence. She learned to discern the subtle hues, the vibrant greens of burgeoning life, the deep blues of ancient wisdom, the fiery reds of passionate creation. But she also learned to feel the dissonances, the fainter, struggling threads. There were whispers of worlds consumed by their own ambition, their technological marvels turning on them, leaving behind echoes of regret. There were civilizations that had simply faded, their stars burning out, their stories dissolving like mist into the void. Elara didn't just observe. She felt them, the joy and the sorrow, the triumph and the tragedy, weaving them into the tapestry of her own understanding. With each new connection, she felt a subtle shift within the weave itself. Where threads had once seemed distant, they now felt closer. It was as if her conscious engagement was helping to strengthen the connections, to mend tiny frayed edges that had gone unnoticed. She was not just a receiver. She was a participant, a conduit, a gentle hand guiding the flow. One day, as she drifted through a particularly vibrant section of the weave, filled with the bustling energy of 1,000 young civilizations, she felt a profound silence. It wasn't the peaceful, ancient silence of a contemplative species, nor the empty silence of a world long gone. This was an active silence, a void that seemed to absorb all sound and light around it, a knot so dense it distorted the very fabric of the weave. It pulsed with a strange, cold energy, like a star that had imploded into itself, leaving behind a gravitational pull that threatened to unravel nearby threads. Elara felt an immediate pull, an insistent whisper that pierced through the silence, not a voice, but a feeling of profound isolation, a deep, aching loneliness that resonated with a forgotten corner of her own heart. This was different from the dying civilization she had encountered before. That world had been fading, its memory a gentle sorrow. This knot felt like a deliberate withdrawal, a self-imposed exile. She focused, drawing closer, her consciousness stretching like a fine silken strand towards the heart of the disturbance. The closer she got, the more the surrounding threads shied away, their vibrant colors dimming, their joyous songs quieting. It was as if this silent knot was a wound in the weave, an infection that suppressed the life around it. What could cause such a thing? Elara wondered. A species so afraid, so hurt, that it chose to sever itself from the cosmic tapestry. Or something else entirely. She pushed through the invisible barrier, a ripple of cold fear attempting to turn her back. But the ache of isolation she felt from within the knot was stronger, a silent plea that she couldn't ignore. She plunged into the heart of the silence. What she found was a world, or rather, the echo of a world, encased in an intricate network of what looked like pure thought, solidified. It was a civilization that had reached the pinnacle of technological and mental evolution, but in doing so, had made a terrible choice. They had sought perfect safety, perfect order, perfect knowledge, and to achieve it, they had constructed a mental shell around their entire civilization, a fortress of consciousness designed to filter out all chaos, all suffering, all unpredictability. They called themselves the Synapse. Their world, once a vibrant hub of innovation and artistic expression, was now a perfect, sterile sphere of pure interconnected thought. Every being within it was linked, their minds a single harmonious superconsciousness. There was no pain, no fear, no doubt. There was also no surprise, no spontaneous joy, no individual dreams. They had achieved ultimate control, and in doing so, had cut themselves off from the very source of life's vibrant, chaotic beauty, the weave itself. Elara saw their history unfold, a great cosmic tragedy, a sudden devastating event that had shattered their sense of security. They had witnessed worlds they loved crumble, felt the pain of distant species through the weave, and in their terror, had decided to protect themselves, to build an impenetrable shield of pure reason and logic. They believed they had transcended emotion, transcended the need for external connection. They saw the weave as a source of vulnerability, a gateway for chaos. But in their perfect order, they were starving. Their minds, once brilliant and expansive, were slowly contracting, repeating the same perfect patterns, never introducing novelty, never truly uncreating. They were a closed system, and like all closed systems, they were destined to stagnate and eventually, to fade into a perfect, silent nothingness. Elara felt a wave of profound sadness wash over her. They weren't malevolent, they were just lost. They were brilliant, magnificent beings who had, in their pursuit of protection, built their own gilded cage. How could she reach them? How could she show them the beauty they had sacrificed, the interconnectedness they had rejected, without overwhelming their carefully constructed mental barriers? Their defenses were not physical, but conceptual, a fortress built of logic, reinforced by fear. She couldn't simply project memories of vibrant worlds. They would be filtered as chaos or irrationality. She couldn't offer them sorrow, it would be rejected as imperfection. Elara sat in the heart of their silence, feeling the emptiness, the vast echoing chambers of their collective mind. She knew she couldn't break their walls, she had to find a way to gently invite them to look beyond. She began to send out a single pure note into their silence. Not a thought, not an emotion, but a concept so fundamental it bypassed their filters. It was the concept of Iwandakonda. She didn't show them images of stars or alien creatures. Instead, she focused on the internal feeling of discovery, the quiet hum of curiosity, the spontaneous spark of an unexpected insight. She drew from her own experiences, not of grand adventures, but of the simple, profound joy of learning something new, of understanding a complex pattern, of feeling the resonance of a truth previously unknown. She projected the feeling of a sudden connection, the aha moment that transcends pure logic, hinting at a deeper, more profound order that embraces both chaos and harmony. At first, there was no response, only the cold, impenetrable silence of the synapse. But Elara persisted, weaving her quiet song of wonder, like a persistent stream finding a tiny crack in a dam. She focused on the beauty of the unknown, the thrill of the unexpected, the quiet courage of embracing imperfection. She offered the potential for newness, not the overwhelming reality of it. Slowly, imperceptibly, she felt a flicker. A tiny, almost imperceptible tremor in the vast, silent network. It was not a rejection, nor an acceptance, but a moment of attention. A single curious thought, detached from the collective, had noticed her subtle resonance. Encouraged, Elara intensified her gentle projection. She focused on the feeling of growth, not just intellectual expansion, but the organic, messy, beautiful process of becoming. She showed them the concept of a seed unfurling, a crystal forming, a new algorithm revealing an unforeseen elegance. She showed them the satisfaction of a problem solved, not just by logic, but by an intuitive leap, a creative spark. The flicker grew. More individual consciousnesses within the synapse, isolated for so long within their perfect unity, began to feel a faint resonance, a forgotten echo of something they once possessed. It was a memory of curiosity, a faint yearning for something more than perfect order. Then, she felt something akin to fear from within the synapse. Her gentle resonance was a disruption, a foreign element. Their automated defenses, their collective logic, began to push back, attempting to analyze and neutralize her influence. But Elara didn't fight it. She simply was. She continued to offer the quiet beauty of wonder, the subtle allure of the unknown, the joy of discovery. She understood their fear. To open themselves meant vulnerability, meant risking the chaos they had worked so hard to exclude. So, she offered them a new perspective on vulnerability, not as weakness, but as the gateway to profound strength, to true connection. She wove a tapestry of shared experience, showing how a single thread, no matter how strong, was ultimately limited, but how countless threads, interconnected, formed a magnificent, resilient whole, the weave itself. It was a slow, agonizing process. Days, weeks, months melted away in the timeless space of the weave. Elara poured every ounce of her empathy, her understanding, her quiet courage into this single monumental task. She was not trying to convert them, but to remind them of who they were, of the spark they had lost. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, a single clear thought emerged from the synapse, directed towards her. It was not a question, but a statement filled with an ancient forgotten longing. Endwe remember, the feeling of newness. And then, like a crack forming in an ancient silent glacier, the protective shell around the synapse began to ripple. Not to break, but to soften, to become permeable. A single tentative thread, gossamer thin, reached out from their collective mind, not to filter or analyze, but to intouch Elara's consciousness. It was the first time they had willingly reached out in eons. Elara responded with a feeling of profound welcome, of acceptance, of unconditional connection. She didn't flood them with information, but gently opened a small window to the weave, a glimpse of a distant, vibrant world experiencing the simple joy of a sunset, its colors painted across alien skies. It was beautiful, chaotic, and utterly unpredictable. The synapse thread recoiled slightly, then hesitantly, reached out again, drawing in the image, processing it, not with fear, but with a dawning curiosity. Other threads began to emerge, slowly, shyly, like tendrils unfurling towards sunlight after a long night. The knot in the weave began to loosen, its oppressive silence giving way to a faint, almost inaudible hum, the sound of minds beginning to awaken to the vastness beyond their self-imposed prison. Elara felt a wave of exhaustion, but also an overwhelming sense of fulfillment. She hadn't forced them. She had simply offered a path, and they, in their own time, had chosen to take a step. The synapse wouldn't immediately rejoin the vibrant flow of the weave. Their journey back would be long, filled with rediscovery, with learning to embrace the beautiful chaos they once feared. But the connection had been re-established. The wound was beginning to heal. As Elara gently withdrew, leaving the synapse to its nascent journey of reconnection, she felt a powerful surge ripple through the entire weave. It was a wave of gratitude, of renewed vitality. The surrounding threads, once dimmed by the silent knot, now flared with renewed brilliance, their songs growing louder, more joyous. The weave itself seemed to sigh in relief, its cosmic tapestry made richer by the reintegration of a lost, brilliant civilization. She was no longer just a weaver exploring stories. She was a healer of the weave, an empathic bridge builder, a gentle hand guiding cosmic currents. Her journey had led her to understand that the greatest power was not in control, but in connection, not in isolation, but in shared experience, even the messy, unpredictable, beautiful kind. Elara drifted back, letting the gentle currents of the weave carry her. She felt lighter, stronger, her heart brimming with a quiet understanding. The weave was not just a collection of threads, it was a living, breathing entity, and she was an intrinsic part of its health and its future. There would be more knots to unravel, more silences to fill, more connections to mend. Her work was far from over. But for now, as the gentle hum of the cosmos enveloped her, Elara knew she had found her true purpose. She closed her senses, allowing the soft, shimmering glow of 1,000 distant stars to lull her, a lullaby woven from wonder, empathy, and the endless beautiful tapestry of existence. She was home, nestled in the heart of the weave, ready for the gentle slumber, knowing that when she awakened her journey of connection would continue, boundless and ever unfolding.